This all happened just last year. I'm 50 now, married, and the father of two boys, ages 7 and 5. I work in insurance, which is every bit as dull as it sounds, but it provides stability. And at this point in life, that's what matters most to me. A couple of years ago, my dad passed away after a long fight with cancer. Among the things he left behind was a beach house in Delaware, a place I'd never visited before since he always rented it out all year round. It's nothing extravagant or spacious, but the location is amazing, just a block from the boardwalk. My favorite part of it by far is the back deck on the upper floor, which gives you a gorgeous view of the ocean. After he passed, we started spending our summers there, sometimes for a weekend, sometimes a whole week. It slowly became a family tradition. My wife and I love being there, but it's the kids who really live for it. They'll stay busy for hours, playing in the sand, riding their bikes, or wandering around town. It honestly feels like a gift my dad left us to enjoy together. This particular incident happened during one of those weeks last summer. We had gone down in mid-July, staying from Sunday through Friday, a sweet spot when the usual crowds thin out and the beach gets a bit more peaceful. I can recall that night perfectly. It was a Wednesday. The boys had passed out by 9:30 after spending all day outdoors, and my wife and I were relaxing on the back deck, sipping wine and playing cards. That's when our oldest son, Jordan, came outside. He looked a little unsettled. He told me there was a scratching sound coming from his room, and it was keeping him up. I looked over at my wife, then set my glass down and stood up, telling her I'd go check it out. I told her to stay put. I figured it was probably just normal creaks and groans. It's an old house, after all. Since the boys have separate rooms, I didn't think there was any need to wake our younger son. I followed Jordan down to his bedroom, and he pointed toward the wall near his bed, signaling me to be quiet. We stood there together for a bit. At first, I didn't hear anything, but I wanted him to know I believed him. So I waited. About 20 seconds later, I finally picked it up. A faint scratching sound, exactly like he'd described. I bent down and pressed my ear to the wall. It didn't sound like an animal moving around in the attic. It seemed like it was inside the wall itself, closer to the floorboards. Then I heard breathing. Not the kind an animal makes. This was human. Slow, steady breathing. I immediately jerked back and let out a startled "Jesus!" before I could stop myself. And then I swear to God, I heard the most vicious, rage-filled scream I've ever experienced coming from inside the wall. It shook me to the core. I cried out again, overwhelmed by a sudden wave of pure dread. I grabbed Jordan by the arm and pulled him out of the room. We sprinted down the hallway to grab my younger son, Scott, who was still sound asleep. I didn't even give him time to fully wake up. I scooped him into my arms and ran. All I could think about was getting back upstairs to the deck where my wife was waiting. That became my sole focus. Just as we reached the bottom of the stairs, I yelled out to her. Right then I heard another scream from behind, this one even closer. I spun around and saw a man, filthy and wild-eyed, sprinting down the hallway toward us. I nearly stumbled trying to make it up the stairs with both boys, but we reached the top and burst out onto the deck just in time. Seconds later, he slammed full force into the sliding glass door behind us. I honestly thought the glass would give way. He began clawing at it like a deranged animal, howling and pounding. yelling things I won't even repeat. I threw my weight against the door and shouted for my wife to grab the kids and call the police. She pulled them back, shielding their ears, keeping them out of sight. I kept myself between the man and my family, locking eyes with him as he shrieked and smeared the glass with something, blood, dirt, I don't know what. He kept battering the door, trying to force it open. I have no idea how long I held it closed. It could have been a minute or 5. It felt endless. The guy seemed tireless, and it took everything I had to keep the door sealed. All I could focus on was keeping him away from my wife and kids. I was ready to fight if the glass gave out. Thankfully, the cops got there before that happened. They must have come around the side of the house, because within moments, 2 officers burst into the room and rushed him from behind. One tackled him, and the other quickly moved in to help restrain him. What followed was a blur. After they had him secured and hauled out, the officers asked me to recount what had happened, which I did. Then the 3 of us searched the house to figure out how he had been inside the walls and how he'd managed to get out so fast. It turned out the house had a crawl space I'd never known existed. There was a hidden entrance underneath the back porch, completely unnoticeable unless you were actively looking for it. From there, the crawl space extended beneath the house and connected to a second access point through a loose panel inside Jordan's closet. I'd had no idea it was even there. I hadn't done a thorough walkthrough when I inherited the place. I never even got around to fixing it up. A few days later, a detective called to give me more details. He said the man had confessed to hiding in that crawl space for months. He'd apparently discovered the hidden entrance during the off-season and had been living there since, stealing food from our house without us realizing and scavenging from nearby trash bins. That night, he had planned to harm my family because, in his mind, we had invaded what he thought was his home. We didn't return to the beach house for the rest of that summer, not because we were afraid something else would happen, but because the trauma of what did happen was too heavy. I didn't want to take my wife or kids back there for a while, and they were fine with that. I hired a crew to completely seal off the crawl space, and once that was done, I finally felt like I could breathe again. This year, we've started using the house once more. I'm glad to report that things feel normal again, or at least as normal as they're going to get.